Blessed Thursday morning, everyone. Today is May 19, 2022, and hashtag Team LRC is back for a new set of learning sessions through our webinar series entitled Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper. So, kumusta po ang bawat isa sa atin? Unat-unat na po at bangon na sa ating mga kama at sabay-sabay tayong matuto sa araw na ito. Ilabas na ang ating mga tasa at ihanda ng mga kape at tsaa para magising tayo ng lubusan para sa ating session. So, good morning po sa inyong lahat. Sa mga nakatutok agad sa ating FB Live, good morning po sa ating mga, nandito na ang ating mga senior high school students from Bautista National High School, Senior High School. So, magandang umaga sa inyo, mga senior high. So, let's see, sino pa mga kasama natin? From San Pablo City, Miss Mary Jane Bolaños Lopez. Hello sa ating mga taga San Pablo. So, let's see, sino pa mga kasama natin ngayong umagang ito? From Lanao del Norte, Rona Magto. Ayan. From Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University, good morning kay Christopher Dante. So, good morning po sa ating lahat. Yes, pumapasok na ang lahat sa ating Facebook Live. Tumutune in na tayo. So, early morning plug muna tayo sa ating mga kasamahan dito sa Los Baños, sa mga kalapit na bayan. You may want to visit the Scenic Gallery at the DL Umali Hall basement here in UP Los Baños for the recent exhibits on blooms, lumen prints of endemic and other Philippine flora featuring the works of Julia Sumangil and Quezon's living tradition. So kami ni na Sir JM and ni Ma'am Mawen of the Office of Student Activities. Hi, Ma'am Mawen. We dropped by yesterday sa exhibit ng Scenic Gallery and we took a look at the artworks and the sculptures na nandun sa gallery. And I can say they're very spectacular and very mesmerizing sa atin, especially sa ating mga taga Quezon Province. So may mga paintings doon ng mga artists about sa mga traditions and sa culture ng mga taga Quezon. So you may want to drop by the Scenic Gallery. And for other information about the exhibit, you may want to coordinate with the Office for the Initiatives of Culture and the Arts, headed by their director. So shout out po kay Prof. Jerry Yapo. So kaya naman sa mga nakatutok sa ating FB Live, magandang umaga po sa inyo. Let us know kung saan po kayo nanonood ngayon. So let's see. We have a guest from Tarlac Agricultural University, si April Joy Mariano Capiral. Good morning. May nakita din ako kanina from Mindanao State University. So si Omar, good morning po. So Tita Emeline Espiritu from the University Main Library. Good morning po sa inyo. Ayan, alright. So kung wala pa po dito ang inyong friendships, classmates, and colleagues, itag na po natin sila dito sa ating FB Live at sabay-sabay po tayong matuto sa umagang ito. As of this morning, well, ang total number of registered participants natin in this webinar series is 8,014 registered participants. So talagang full force at sama-sama tayo mga teachers, students, and aspiring researchers na ilalaban ng ating mga research papers. At sa ating mga graduating scholars ng bayan para sa bayan, kapit lamang po tayo at ating i-manifest at i-claim ang Sablay 2022 QT, di ba? So I hope on board na po tayong lahat. Time check, it's already 9:03 in the morning. Welcome to Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper. So for this webinar series, our team prepared 10 sessions for us to fully appreciate the value of research in our life as teachers and students, as well as to learn different tips and strategies on how to further improve and ace our research papers, especially for our students ngayon na inilalaban o tinatapos na ang kanilang mga thesis or dissertations. Okay. So I am Joshua Michael Jonas, University Research Associate of the UPLB Learning Resource Center, and yours truly, Paul, will be our webinar's moderator. We are now on our last and 10th session entitled, Let's Work It, Oral and Visual Presentation of Research. So in this whole webinar series, we were able to discuss about the different aspects of research, particularly from the agenda, the research and extension agenda of UPLB, excuse me, the social relevance of research, the use of library resources, making the RRL, gender mainstreaming and ethics in research, quantitative and qualitative analysis, and writing the manuscript and getting published. Yung topic natin with Ma'am Gurley last Tuesday. So today, to sum it all up, we'll be discussing about essential tips when we finally present our research to our advisory committee or our research panel. So ano nga ba yung mga do's and don'ts natin kapag ipe-present na ang ating research results? How do we effectively present our research visually? But also, how do we present ourselves as the researcher o yung magpe-present ng ating mga results? How do we articulate our thoughts during this presentation? So kapit lamang po tayo at sabay-sabay tayong matututo sa ating resource speaker for this morning. Just a few friendly reminders for our webinar. Number one, at all times, please keep your comments helpful and considerate to the speaker, moderator, and to your fellow participants. Second, if you have questions, feel free to comment them down below our comment section and make sure that they are relevant to the topic this morning. And lastly, please do not forget to answer the evaluation form after the webinar. Our team will deeply appreciate your comments and suggestions. Please be reminded that the deadline of responses will only be until 10 p.m. tonight. For those who will not be able to join us today or this morning, since you have an equally important matters or meetings to attend to, don't you worry, you can always watch the replay of our sessions on our Facebook page. We now have strong 95,000 strong followers. So your continuous and overwhelming support for our team serves as our inspiration to keep moving forward. So thank you very much, our dear followers. Likewise, you can also watch the recorded sessions on our YouTube channel. Just search UPLB Learning Resource Center on YouTube. We now have around 3,110 subscribers as of this morning. So please continue to like, share, and subscribe, and also click the notification bell to keep you updated with our recent videos and webinars. We'd also like to invite you to follow and connect with us on Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So kindly use our official hashtag for this webinar series, which is hashtag Research is Life. For the 10th and final time, ipapanindigan natin na research is life talaga. At para mabilis natin makita ang lahat ng videos sa ating webinar series using that hashtag. All right. So moving forward, let's have a short energizer. So for this webinar series, this is our last energizer. So if you already attended our previous webinars, you know the drill. Hindi na kailangan sabihin yan. Sa mga ngayon lamang po susubok, madali lamang po ito. First, open a new browser or a new window, and then go to www.menti.com. And second, use the key code that you see on your screen, which is 25193658. So, and then let's answer the question that you see on your screen. So allow me to put it as well in our comment section. So you'll be directed immediately sa ating Mentimeter. So ayan, okay. So allow me to share my screen for the energizer. Ayan. Okay. So ang ating first question is, which one do you prepare first before our research presentation? So ano nga bang una natin, kayo personally, ano po ang inyong unang hinahanda bago ang isang research presentation? Is it your outfit? Is it your slide presentation? Or is it your note cards? Yung, I don't know kung ginagawa nyo pa rin ba yun, yung nasa index card na maliliit na parang nandun yung key, parang notes mo? Or is it your mindset? Hindi mo pa rin ba ma-fathom na it's finally time for your research presentation? Or is it your skills? Pinaprepare nyo ba muna agad ano ba yung inyong sasabihin? Or others, baka may iba kayong ginagawa or pinaprepare before you present your research or any presentation in that matter. So let's see ang ating mga tumutuning. So yes, 301 na tayo sa FB Live. So keep it coming po. So ito yung ating mga responses. So nangunguna ang ating slide presentation. Oh, well, pantay na pala sila as of now ng mindset, followed by note cards. Tapos may isa na unang pinaprepare niyo kanyang spills. So, wala pa nagpe-prepare ng outfit, no? Especially ngayong pandemic season, no? So, yung mga nag-present ng kanilang research during the pandemic, no? Madali lamang yung outfit na yan. Kailangan lang ng upper outfit, hindi na kailangan ng pang-ibaba, kahit sapatos pa. Diba? Nagawa ko yan nung minsan, no? May presentation kami sa klase. Naka-polo lang ako, naka-long sleeves ako sa itaas, pero sa baba naka-shorts at naka-chinelas lamang. So, hopefully, pag bumalik na tayo sa face-to-face, makapag-aura ulit ang ating mga researchers pagdating sa kanilang presentations. So, nangunguna na ngayon ang mindset, followed by slide presentations, note cards, then spills. So, try natin paabutin ng 40 responses. Let's see. So, sabi ni Red Aquino sa Facebook Live, no, mindset talaga ang una niyang pine-prepare sa research. So, 37, 3 more to go na responses. Let's see. 2 more. Last one, 39 responses na. So, talagang nangunguna ang, ayan. So, talagang ang unang pina-prepare is ang ating mindset. So, kailangan natin mag-grasp yung idea na, okay, it's finally time to present our research. Followed by the slides, note cards, and spills, and the outfit. Okay. For our next and last question naman, we want to know, kayo especially for our teachers, no, who had experience in many research presentations, ano yung mga practices na ginagawa nyo before or during your research presentation? Ano yung mga habits na ginagawa ninyo before or during your research presentation? Ako personally, una sa lahat, before ako, especially kapag thesis or important yung presentation, dumadaan muna ako sa simbahan. Nagdadasal muna ako bago ang aking research presentation. No, yun talaga, yung tinatawag natin divine interventions. So regardless of your religion, no, I think or I assume, no, most of us would pray before our research presentation. Yan, no. So let's see. Yan, no, may sumagot din ng pray. Inhale, exhale, yes. Yung ating mga mindful exercises, no. Rehearse, read, and practice. I agree, no. Ako, isa din palang ginagawa ko bago yung actual na research presentation is nagpa-practice ako with my sister or di kaya my best friend nung college, no. Parang simulation nung actual research presentation. Prepare yourself. Prepare a week before. No? Good point, no? What are some of your practices? Kung may nagsagot ng panic, don't panic po. It's, sabi nga, no research is worth your life. So, relax lamang po tayo. Mock defense. Yeah, same tayo. Self-rehearsal, review your notes, meditate, practice talaga. Eat a lot. So, yan ba yung talaga ating stress eating? Yan. Sabi ni Red Aquino ulit sa ating Facebook Live, no? Before research, mag-relax muna at mag-unwind. Yes. Sabi nga, let's not, kung meron tayong kasabihan na you cannot cram the RRL, siguro gagawa din tayo ng bagong kasabihan na you cannot cram your research presentation. No? So malaki ang ating praise sa ating word cloud. So try natin pabutin ng 50 responses. Memorize the flow, mag-power nap. Interesting. No, review and rehearse. Yan. So kahit 45, last one. Read and practice, pray, meditate. Ayan. Okay. So these are very good ideas. So thank you for sharing with us your practices before and during your research presentations in the past. No? So I hope we will be adding up to this yung sa matututunan natin ngayong umagang ito sa ating session. Okay. So thank you very much sa mga nag-participate sa ating Mentimeter. So we will take note of those practices na minention ninyo. Okay, so before we proceed, I would like to invite everyone to view, read, share, and LRC social media cards entitled #ThesisIt. So we are currently showcasing some of the best undergraduate thesis in UPLB, wherein we present information about the students' research, the results and significance of the study, and tips for students who are pursuing their research. So our fourth installment is already uploaded yesterday in our Facebook page and Instagram account. So the best thesis in the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy in 2021 was Reyno Manuel U. Manilay with his thesis entitled The Second Runner of Sex, a de Beauvoirian Analysis of Beauty Pageants. So his advisor is Assistant Professor Krisa Margabi Taganas. So this was his thesis. So if you want to read more, it's already in our Facebook page and we want to check it out later. So one of his tips for students pursuing their research is this: prioritize and take care of yourself. It would be difficult to write and defend a thesis if you're not in good health. So I totally agree with our best thesis awardee, no? Always take care of yourself during the conduct of your research. So sabi nga ni Doc Pam, di ba, no research is worth your life. So always take note of that. Take care of yourself. So thank you very much to Reyno Manuel for sharing with us your research. So let's go now to the main part of our session. So allow me to introduce to you our speaker for this morning. Dr. Edmund G. Centeno is an associate professor at the Department of Educational Communication, College of Development Communication here at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He finished his Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Development Communication here in UPLB, and his Doctor of Philosophy and Educational Communications and Technology at Kasetsart University in Bangkok, Thailand. He was also a visiting scholar at the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Northern Colorado in the United States. His areas of specialization include development communication, educational communication and technology, e-learning, instructional design, and multimedia design and development. At present, he is also the current and the first director of the newly established Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning under the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs here in UPLB. Here to share with us best practices in oral and visual presentation of research, please welcome in the Zoom space, Dr. Edmund G. Centeno. Sir Ed, good morning.
All right, maraming salamat Josh for that very kind introduction at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, sa ating mga kasama ngayon no, sa Facebook Live. So before I start, let me just check for those who are watching or listening sa ating Facebook Live, kindly click yung wow na icon if you can hear me clearly. Okay po, so click the wow icon if you can hear me clearly. Yun ba yung tawag doon, Josh? Wow icon. Ayan. So
Sir, wow.
may mga nakita na ako sa ating Facebook. All right. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So again, to check if you can see the presentation clearly in Facebook, kindly click yung ating like na button. Okay, so if you can see our presentation clearly in Facebook, click the like button. All right, so ayan, may mga nakita na ako na mga nag-like. Once again, maraming salamat no, for inviting me in this session. Now, before we proceed with our presentation for today, here are some reminders no, in addition to what Josh mentioned a while ago. Please take note that kindly consider itong ating webinar as a safe space. If you have questions or comments, you can freely type them in Facebook so that we can address them later. And by doing that, no, I would like to inform everyone also that we need to be mindful also and respect yung comments or suggestions or feedback no, ng ating mga kasamahan dito sa ating webinar. Okay, so the title of my presentation for today is Designing Effective Research Presentations. Now, please take note, for this webinar, I would like to emphasize that there are so many types or so many avenues where we can present our research, no? Whether it be face-to-face or online or even presentations via different publications. Now, the lessons that we will be discussing for today, yun pong mga guides natin, will be applicable, no? Especially yung ating mga tips or guides in visual design will be applicable for any type of media. So please take note of that. All right? So for today's webinar, we hope to achieve the following objectives. So dalawa lamang yung nilista ko dito, no? So the first one, at the end of this webinar, you should be able to discuss the processes in preparing research presentations. Now, I would like to focus on this on the different activities, no, that we need to undertake whenever we create a presentation for our research. Kasi in most cases, ito po yung kadalasan na na-overlook natin. No, kagaya nga ng question ni Josh kanina, ano ba yung ating usually na pine-prepare, no, kapag tayo ay mag-research? Of course, in addition to yung ating outfit, yung ating PowerPoint or slide presentation, or yung outline, or yung ating spills. So there are specific activities which can guide us. Now, think of these activities as our checklist also, so that next time when we will be asked to present, no, our research, alam na natin yung mga specific steps na kailangan pagdaanan. Now, for our second objective, we hope to apply the principles in designing effective research presentations. Now, since karamihan sa ating mga watchers or viewers ngayon sa Facebook ay mga estudyante, at dahil patapos na ang semester, so tamang-tama, no, yung ating discussion. And I hope you will be able to apply yung mga design principles that we will be discussing today. Okay? Now, before we proceed, I would like us to take note that each presenter has different styles of presenting. What I will be discussing today are based from my experience or from experiences of my colleagues or of my students. No, kasi kahit ako, I also want to improve, no, on how I present. That's why at the end of each webinar, I watch din yung recording so that next time alam ko yung mga kailangan kong gawin or mga kailangan kong iwasan, most especially for mannerisms, no, when I discuss a specific topic. All right? Now, for different presentations, take note also that there may be cases that when we present, no, we can still captivate our audience even if we don't use any visuals. No, yung mere ano po natin, no, yung how we project ourselves, how we discuss, no, yung particular topic. For some speakers, those are enough already to catch the attention of the viewers. However, important din po ang ating mga visuals so that we can guide our viewers on the particular topic that we are discussing. Kasi when we talk, no, in research presentations, parang yun yung ating common frame of reference, no? Kapag may nakitang visual si viewer or yung si participant, alam niya na ito yung pinag-uusapan o ito yung tinutukoy ng presenter or ng researcher. All right? So these are the two objectives that we hope to achieve at the end of this webinar. Okay, so if you are ready, let's now proceed with our first topic. And as I have mentioned, no, these are the important activities that we need to undertake whenever we create a communication material, or in this particular case po, no, visual material. So ito po yung tinatawag natin na visual design process. And from experience po, I divided it into 5 categories or groups of activities, starting from the planning phase, wherein we research or analyze or think, no, ano kaya yung aking content na ilalagay dito sa aking visual material in relation to several factors, no? So we will be discussing po yung ating planning phase later on. And then after that, so dito ngayon papasok yung ating message design, no? So we are now writing our content. Just try to imagine yung research po na ginawa ninyo, let's say in 1 semester or 1 year or 2 or more years. and you will be asked to present it in, let's say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, definitely it will be a challenge, no? So yung second activity natin, message design, this is where we tawag doon, visualize yung mga key ideas that we will include in our presentation. So for the third activity or phase, so ito po yung ating production phase, dito na po yung actual na sabi nga nila, quote unquote, yung dirty work, no, kung saan nagle-layout tayo, we take photos, we use a specific apps like for example PowerPoint or Canva, dito na natin nilalatag yung ating mga elements. So sa production phase. Now, for the presentation and evaluation, we will not be discussing in details na po, no, yung specifics, although I have some tips for presentation. But for this webinar, I would like us to focus on the first three. Okay? But of course, very important din yung evaluation because this is where we pre-test or check kung appropriate ba or tama ba or accurate ba yung information that we are including in our research presentation. Alright, so ito po yung ating 5 phases or activities under the visual design process. And kanina natanong din ni Josh, no, ano ba usually yung ating mga activity na ginagawa before and during presentation? Now, from experience, in some cases, we tend to skip a specific activity or a specific phase. Kasi nga ang natin, ito naman thesis ko ay naisulat ko na, no? So ipe-present ko na lang ito sa, let's say, sa isang conference. So baka I can skip the planning phase. I can already proceed with the production. Anyway, I already have all the contents with me, no? So minsan may mga ganun tayong tendencies. No, we tend to skip one of these activities. Kaya lang po, if you want to be more efficient, to save time in designing your communication or your visual material, I would like to highly suggest and encourage everyone to follow ito pong mga activities natin na ito. Although kahit yung tingin ng iba medyo tedious process ito, no, or medyo yun nga paulit-ulit or medyo ang tagal na proseso or boring na part, no? So, yun po. So, take note of these 5 important processes or activities when we are creating a research presentation. Now, for the first process, planning phase, now I would like us to take note of these factors, no? Kailangan nating i-consider muna, where are we going to present? Are we going to present it in a symposium or in a conference as a plenary speaker or in a conference as a concurrent paper presenter? Will you be presenting your research in the form of a poster presentation? Will you be presenting it in a meeting or in a roundtable discussion? Or are you going to present it in a thesis defense or proposal defense? Or will you be presenting your research in the form of a publication? Halimbawa, journal article, or gagawa ka ng tawag doon, handout, or ng isang simple na fact sheet out of your research. Okay, now why do we need to consider this? Now please take note, yung ating pong format ng ating research presentation will depend, no, kung saan po natin ito ipe-present. Like for example, if you will be invited as a plenary speaker, that means in a conference, no, that means you have more time to talk or discuss. Maybe you will be given 30 minutes to 1 hour. However, if you will be presenting it in a concurrent paper presentation, medyo shorter, no? Siguro mga 10 minutes and then additional 5 minutes for the Q&A. So makakaapekto po yung ating venue or kung saan natin ito ipe-present. The amount of information that we will include, like for example, if you have a 500-page BS or MS thesis, tapos you're only given 10 minutes to present it, no? So yung amount of information that you will include will depend then also kung saan mo ito ipe-present. So kung you will be presenting it in let's say a poster presentation, of course you don't need naman to present everything, no, sa inyong mga research. Maybe you can select 1 or 2 objectives or highlight, no, or check alin kaya dito sa objective ng aking presentation will be highly relevant, no, dito sa theme ng conference or sa theme ng symposium or ng seminar. All right? So take note of this question. Where am I going to present it? Now, that's also very important because there are specific guidelines, okay, that are usually set by the organizer nung pong, let's say, conference or seminars or symposium. No? Take note, usually naglalabas po sila, like for example, in a paper presentation na 10 minutes, sasabihin nila yung time limit, sasabihin nila na ano yung kailangan mong i-focus. Yung iba naglalagay pa nga ng percentage, like for example, intro, that's only 5%, methodology, 20% of your presentation, your results and discussion, that can be, let's say, 50 to 60%. No? So may mga specific guidelines din po. And these guidelines contain, like for example, yung time limit, if it's a poster paper, yung dimensions. In this example na nakikita nyo sa screen, nakalagay dito yung 36 by 48. Some conferences or some organizers will also give you yung templates na dapat ito yung PowerPoint template na gagamitin mo, or if it's a poster paper, ito yung background, ito yung design, ito yung format, ito yung layout, ipapasok mo na lang dito yung iyong content. No? So, yun yung importance. Why do we need to consider yung kung saan natin siya ipepresent? Okay po. Now, since mahalaga yung time limit, no? I remember nakapag-attend ako ng isang conference at yung speaker or yung presenter nasa methodology pa lang siya pero na-cut na siya agad nung organizer kasi they are very strict, no? Maybe because there are so many papers to be presented, and we don't want that to happen to us, no? Of course, ang goal natin is to present to everyone, to disseminate yung ating research results. Kaya importante po yung nabanggit nyo kanina na we practice, we rehearse, we write a script. No? Actually, ganun yung technique ko. No? Gumagawa muna ako ng PowerPoint, and then dun sa notes or sa Canva, dun sa notes, dun ako nagsusulat ng aking script, and then I practice. Now, please take note, when you practice, sa actual na presentation, stick to what you have practiced. Huwag na yung masyadong maraming ad-lib, no? Kasi na-calculate mo na yung oras mo eh. So, kapag naglagay ka pa ng mga additional na ad-libs or anecdotes or stories dyan, most probably baka mag-overtime ka. Okay po? So, take note of that. Now, the second thing that we need to consider during the planning phase, take note ha, nasa first phase po tayo ng ating visual design process, we need to consider kung sino po yung ating audience. Who is our audience? How are we going to engage them? Okay? How are we going to make them understand our message? Like for example, in a conference, if I am from a communication or an education background, no, or ang field ko ng specialization is in communication or in educational technology, will I be interested to listen to a presentation on big data? No? So, yun yung goal mo as a researcher or as a research presenter. No? How are you going to engage your viewers kahit na sila ay nasa ibang field? We hope to impart to them that what I will be discussing in my research will also be relevant to you. No? So this is very important, or it has also significance to you, no? Kahit magkaiba tayo ng field of specialization. No? So how are we going to engage them? First, of course, yung ating choice of design elements or choice of ating medium or visual material. No, of course, if you have interesting presentation, if you have interesting PowerPoint presentation or let's say slide presentation, most probably, yun yung first way, no, to catch or grab the attention of your viewer. All right? So we can also engage them on how we discuss our presentation or how we present to them our research. Now, ito po yung common na na experience ko in paper presentations. Most speakers tend to talk too quickly or masyadong mabilis. It might be an indicator for them or for the presenter that they are highly knowledgeable on the topic kasi sobrang bilis magsalita. However, ang tanong dito, maiintindihan ka ba niya or mahahabol ka ba ng iyong listener or ng iyong viewer? Take note, when we present in whatever forms, yun pong processing of information on the part of the viewer, yun po yung isa sa kailangan nating i-consider. No? So how do my participants have enough time to process information that I have presented? No? Kaya please take note, wag po tayo masyadong mabilis magsalita, or take note also, we need to pay attention to the time. Okay? Tama lang sana yung ating pacing, and when to engage them further, we can also change yung ating tone ng voice. Like for example, if I want to highlight a particular part of my presentation, pwede akong magsalita ng mas malakas. Like, in this presentation, I would like you to take note of etc., etc., etc. Tapos pwede mong babaan yung iyong tono, no? So sa mga susunod na topics or parts. So using a variety of voice inflections and pitches can make your listener interested doon sa ating pong presentation. Okay? So we need to avoid yung ating monotone na boses. Kasi sabi nga ng mga estudyante ko, no, sometimes ganun din ako sa klase. Sometimes nagiging boring yung presentation kapag monotone tayo. And of course, we need to maintain eye contact. So this is very important. Even if you are presenting online, so for most of the time, kahit na may kodigo ka na binabasa sa iyong presentation, talk to them, no? Focus on the camera, lalo na if you want to highlight a specific part, no? So look at the camera. It's as if you are looking to your audience or to your viewer. All right? So yun po yung ways on how we can engage. Now, another thing that we need to consider during the planning phase, what to include. Now, consider your presentation as a three-act structure. So you have Act 1 for the introduction, Act 2 for the body, and Act 3 for the conclusion. So we need to take note, alin ba sa mga acts na ito yung in terms of time allotment, no, alin ba rito yung pagtutuunan ko ng pansin, no? For many speakers, it's Act 2, no? But for other speakers, they would like to highlight, of course, yung conclusion, no? So, tama yung mga nabanggit or yung mga nagsagot kanina dun sa ating mentee na yung inyong spiel, when you write your script, take note how you will introduce yourself, your topic, yung relevance, yung significance ng inyong research, how will you present yung inyong data, and of course, yung conclusion, and of course, yung ating ding mga recommendations. All right? So, take note. What to include? Additional things that I would like you to focus on. Ito po yung mga bahagi ng ating research, no? I am not sure if I missed anything. Well, it really depends on the format, no? Ito po kasi kinuha ko doon sa isang conference. Okay, ito yung kanilang mga specific formats that I need or that the participants or the researchers need to discuss or present, no? What to include from title to introduction to your research questions and objectives, down to your references, recommendations, and acknowledgement. Okay? Now, please take note, I'm sure we have already the content of our presentation in written form, yung ating manuscript. Kasi yun naman talaga yung nauuna, no po? So ang challenge na lang sa atin is how are we going to cut down yun pong mga content noon in such a way na siya ay pasok doon sa allotted na time limit or pasok doon sa dimensions if it's a poster presentation, no? That's assigned to me or given to the participants. No? So why do we need to cut down? Nabanggit ko yung time limit, yung dimensions. We also need to hold the attention of our audience or viewers. Kaya if you have plenty of things to say, most probably baka mag-stray away po yung ating audience, no, at some point. And we want them to be absorbed, no, doon sa ating presentation. All right? So follow the guidelines carefully. Ito po yung aking masasabi. I may be presenting to you different guidelines. At the end of the day, yun pong nakaset pa rin ng mga conferences or ng organizers, no, na guidelines. Yun po yung we need to strictly follow. In relation to that, no, what to include? These are the 5 questions. Ang daming bahagi ng ating research, no? Pero for me, ito po yung 5 questions that every research talk should address. What is your problem? What is your research question? What is the problem that you would like to address? Why should people care? No? What is its significance or relevance to the community or to your particular audience? What did you do? This refers to our methodology. Paano natin siya ginawa? No? What did you find? So ito na po yung ating results and discussion. What does it mean? So ano yung implication? Anong ibig sabihin? Yung analysis ng ating data. We are not just presenting the results, no? We need to present also its implications. Okay? And its significance doon po sa ating mga participants or ayun nga, sa ating mga participants. Alright? So what to include? Last thing for this section on what to include, or second to the last po pala, write only the most important component. When we create visual materials, we don't need to write everything. No? Doon pong sa ating presentation. Sometimes keywords will be enough and then just tell your results, no? Discuss it. Okay? So importante din po that we create an outline. Gumagawa po ba tayo ng outline when we create presentations? Honestly speaking, sige po, i-type natin, no, sa chat box ng ating Facebook. You can comment kung kayo po ay gumagawa ng outline. This is very important, no, yung outlining, kasi po it will help us to organize yung ating flow of discussion and in selecting yung important sections that we need to visualize. Take note, no, we are creating visual material. So ano po ba yung kailangan nating i-visualize? Well, you can get it from your outline. All right? Outlining, this is one of the most skipped part, no, ng ating proseso. And I hope at the end of this webinar, makita natin yung importance or significance ng outlining. And of course, we need to prepare also extra slides just in case your audience ask for more details. Ito po, magandang practice ito, no? Sabi ko nga, we don't need to put everything. No? Ang translation natin dito, 1 minute is equivalent to 1 slide, depending on how fast you talk, no? Pero on the average, ganun po 'yon. So hindi natin talaga mailalagay lahat. But if you i-anticipate na po natin, no? Baka ito itanungin sa akin later on sa Q&A. I can prepare an extra slide. I can show yung specific na table or graph to show yung details. But during the presentation, yung summary lang yung sasabihin ko, no? So importante po yung preparing extra slides. Okay? And finally, dito po sa ating what to include, this is an interesting part din, no? One way of engaging our viewers, no? Write a catchy title. Now, please take note, in some conferences, ang nakalagay lang doon sa kanilang, ang tawag doon, program, ay yung title ng presentation. Tapos, bahala na si viewer or si researcher or si participants kung saan siyang kung saan siyang room or kung saan siyang pupunta na session. Ang nababasa lang natin yung title, no? In some conferences, they also provide the abstract. If that's the case, mas maganda. Kasi mas mapipili mo, no? Uy, ito relevant sa aking field. I'm interested to attend this session, no? Maganda kung may abstract sana or kung may full paper na siyang kasama. However, in some nga, yung title lang yung nakalagay. So, it's very important also to write a catchy and interesting title. Now, please take note, it doesn't necessarily mean naman na yung title ng inyong PhD dissertation, yun din yung gagawin mong title ng iyong conference paper or ng iyong paper na ipe-present sa poster presentations or sa isang roundtable discussion. Pwede naman po nating i-tweak because we all know that yun pong title ng ating research, of course, this is set by our university. May specific guidelines tayo dito, no? Yung iba nila kailangan mong ilagay ano yung methodology ginawa mo, saan mo ginawa yung research, kay sino yung respondents or sino yung participants mo. Some schools or most pala, they require us to write all those details. However, for research presentations in conferences, pwede naman po nating i-tweak, no? Like for example, ito pong dalawang title na ito, no? Yung first title, yung pong Development of a Blended Learning Model, this is the title of my research. However, when I presented this in a conference, I changed, no? Una, sobrang haba. Some organizers will also ask you to limit yung number of words. So, pwede po nating i-tweak, no? Maybe hindi mo naman kailangan i-present all the things that you have gathered, no, or analyzed doon sa iyong manuscript. So in this case, I changed the title to Flipping Development Communication Classes, an Analysis of Blended Learning Experiences at UP Los Baños, Philippines. Yung pong participants ko na from College of DevCom, I discuss it during the presentation. No po, yung proseso ng I developed a blended learning model for this specific group of respondents, hindi ko siya nilagay sa title, pero I discuss it in my methodology. So, yun po, no? So, yung sabi nga nila, keep it short and crisp, no? To make it more interesting. Here are some examples of interesting titles that I have checked online. Yung first one dito is a research from my colleague po, si Ma'am Lynette Carpio-Serrano. I hope she's also watching us sa Facebook Live. Huwag kang sosyosero at textual analysis of social media posts on public breastfeeding. Okay? So the other titles po, I just googled it online, no. This is very interesting. Breaking Badly, no. So andun yung no, yung sa pop culture na Breaking Bad, no. DFTD2 gives sizable errors for tensile strengths in palladium hydride solids. Friends don't let friends eat cookies. Effects of restrictive eating norms on consumption among friends. Now take note, for your thesis, whether it's BS, MS, or PhD dissertation, you might not be allowed, no, to have these titles. Kasi nga may guidelines. However, for conferences, you can check, no, if there are guidelines, or pwede po nating, we can be creative, no? You probably think this paper's about you. Parang nakakatuwa yun, no? When I first read this paper, natuwa ako. But the topic is about narcissist perceptions of their personality and reputation. No? So these are examples of catchy title. Now, during the planning phase, important din po where to get inspiration. So you can check the theme, the topic, your topic, the characteristics of your audience, what's new, what's trending. You may check online, ano ba yung mga current trends in poster papers, in research presentations, or there are also available templates. All right? I can understand, ang hirap po talagang gumawa ng presentation, most especially kapag ikaw ay parating gumagawa ng presentation. So yung mga teachers po na viewers natin dito sa Facebook Live, no? I know, ganun din yung inyong na-experience. Naubos ko na lahat ng template, lahat ng mga naiisip ko na pwedeng gawing background or layout, nagawa ko na. Ano naman kaya yung gagawin kong susunod na background, no? Or how will I create this. No? So you may want to check. In this particular example, public engagement in science, I got this from poster presentation ni Doc Pam, yung ating pong presenter last time with Eman and Dr. David, at ang nag-layout po ay si Ricky Lee. So as you can see, no, maybe this is one of yung mga current trends ng ating mga poster presentations. All right? Take note, some organizers will provide templates. You may want to ask them if you feel na hindi uubra yung template nila sa amount of info that you want to include or sa inyong design aesthetics, you have something in mind, you can ask them naman po, no, if you can deviate, although yung theme, yung kulay, i-adapt mo pa rin, pero you can deviate later on. So you can send them an email and inquire, no, if it's possible. Now, how will you create it? This is the last part po ng ating planning phase. It's very important to consider our resources, both human and non-human resources. First, do you have the necessary skills, no, to create a particular type of presentation that you have in mind? Gusto kong i-record, gusto kong gumawa ng video. Meron ba akong gamit? Meron ba akong apps na pwedeng magamit to edit my presentation? No? Will there be someone who can help me to do the layout? I want to take photos, original photos, to include in my poster or in my publication. So, ako ba ang kukuha or meron akong photographer sa opisina who can help me? So, yun po yung ating human resources, no? In terms of budget, excuse me, we also need to consider, no? Am I going to distribute it electronically? I-share ko na lang ba yung aking PDF copy of my handout or slide presentation, or do I need to print it? No? If I'm going to print this and i-distribute ko sa aking panelist, halimbawa thesis defense, do I have enough budget para sa full color na manuscript? No? Or okay lang ba na yung advisor ko lang yung bibigyan ko, no? Ayaw nating maging no? Pero minsan may ganon. Yung aking advisor, sige, full color yung bibigay ko, but for the other members of the panel, baka nag-okay naman sila na pwedeng hindi full color yung ibigay. So, we need to consider yung ating budget. And finally, yung ating pong time. Dito tayo magaling, no? Naobserbahan ko lang, many of us, sige nga, i-type nyo sa i-type nyo sa ating chat box sa Facebook Live. Many of us would like to cram. Like for example, tomorrow yung presentation, last month mo pa nalaman na accepted yung paper mo, pero wala kang ginawa nitong linggong ito, no? Until 1 or 2 days before the presentation, tsaka ka lang nag-iisip na sige, umpisahan ko na yung aking presentation. For others, it worked for them. No, mas lumalabas yung kanilang creativity kapag nagka-cram. However, kapag nag-cram tayo, yung ating information, baka we might need to check yung accuracy, we might need to pre-test or have it checked by a colleague or our peers. So you have more time, no, to do that kapag po tayo ay hindi nag-cram. So yun po yung isa sa mga kailangan nating i-consider. All right? So those are the different factors that we need to take note of, no, during the planning phase. And if you have questions, kindly type them po sa ating chat box and we'll address them later. All right? Okay. So ngayon po, let's proceed. Sorry. Let's proceed with the second phase. Let me just drink my water. Ayan. So let's proceed with the second phase. Yung atin pong message design. And these are the different steps that we need to consider. Now, please take note, no, when we do our message design, dito na natin binubuo yung content ng ating presentation. So, first thing that we need to do, write your objectives. Now, these objectives do not refer to your research objectives. Take note. This refers to the objectives of your presentation. Ano ba yung goal ko? Ano ba yung objective ko? Why will I present this? No? So, yun po yung tinutukoy ng objectives dito. Pangalawa, we need to gather data. Okay? Based po sa objectives na ating sinulat, we need to gather data. So we need to organize, collect, no? As I have mentioned a while ago, we don't need to present everything sa ating research. So kung meron ka ng objectives diyan, so yun yung guide mo kung ano lang yung data or amount of info that you will include, and from that data, you organize it further, you write your outline. Okay? So nabanggit natin po kanina yon, and from that outline, we need to visualize key ideas. Take note. Okay? Yung outline natin, yun yung magiging guide natin. Anong photo yung ilalagay ko for this particular slide? Or anong flat icon or image or graph or table yung ilalagay ko? Well, you can get it from your outline. No? Doon mo siya makikita. And of course, determine our production requirements. Yun po yung resources that I have mentioned a while ago. In message design, we need to write it down, no? In relation to yun nga pong ating objectives, amount of info, outline, and key ideas. All right? So, gaano ba tayo katagal gumawa ng isang slide presentation? You may type din po, no, sa ating chat box. Gaano ba tayo katagal? If you have all the data, 1 or 2 hours will be enough to produce, to lay out. Okay? Or kung wala pang data, starting from the writing the objectives, it will take me, let's say, 3 days. So, yun po yung kailangan natin i-consider sa production requirements. No? Kasi nga, yun yung mindset, yun yung kanina naalala ko, no? Yung ating motivation to do it, yung ating mindset, syempre, kailangan i-organize din natin yung ating sarili. Alright? So, yun po yung ating message design. So, let's now proceed with our third na phase ng ating visual design process, and that is the production phase. Okay po? And in this phase, dito na po papasok how we put together yun pong ating yung ating sinulat na content plus yung images, photos, or icons, including diagrams or charts or tables, no? How are we going to put all those elements together in our presentation? So yun po yung ginagawa natin sa production phase. And I would like us to focus on the different design techniques. Okay, so this is the more interesting part, and I think we are now in our second objective. Take note, yung ating pong design principles. All right? Now, when we create a visual material, any particular visual material, kahit na po ito ay hindi pang research presentation, no? The general tip is that we design visuals for viewing and not for reading. Okay, take note of that. Kaya nga natin po siya tinatawag na visual presentation, visual material, because it's meant to be viewed and not to be read. So we need to take note of the amount of information that we will be including. Sabi nga natin, you don't need to put or write everything in your slide presentation. However, if you want to provide more details, you can provide additional or supplemental materials, let's say a handout or a leaflet. No? Pwede nating ilagay doon yung specific details na magagamit ng ating participants as they listen to you, as they watch your presentation. Meron din silang supplemental na nandun yung mga details. Alright? So yun pong ating yung general tip. And in order for us to be guided further dun po sa ating pag-design, I would like us to take note of these 4 elements of design. These elements will help us in designing effective research presentations. So, included po dito yung ating text, yung ating color, yung images or visuals that you are planning to include. Isama na natin dito if you have videos to share. So ilagay na natin siya dun sa number 3 na category. And finally, yun pong ating layout. Okay? So these are the 4 elements. Ngayon po, isa-isain natin ito, no? Let's proceed with text, with our fonts, no? Now, when designing visual materials or when designing for your research presentation, as much as possible, use simple letter style. Take note. Ang gusto po natin dito, the texts are legible enough, no, for our viewers, for the participants to process information, to process content clearly, effectively, no, and conveniently, no. Wag na natin po silang masyadong pahirapan pa by the choice of our fonts or letter style. And I'm sure lahat po tayo may favorite font, no? Ano ba yung favorite font natin? Okay? Na ginagamit sa ngayon sa ating mga presentations. You may type them po, no, sa ating chat box. Ano ba yung favorite font ko? Right now, mahilig ako sa Lato, no? Yun yung for the body ng aking presentation, yun yung kadalasang ginagamit ko, or let's say Montserrat or Helvetica. So yun po yung aking mga favorite fonts, no? Now take note, alin kaya sa mga ito yung mga simple na letter styles? Usually it's the Gothic or yung mga sans serif, no? Yung po mga walang buntot, or yung sabi nga nila with thick and thin strokes. Ang Gothic po ay yung even ang strokes ng mga letters, katulad ng Arial, Calibri, etc. Yung Roman family, yun po yung ating yun po yung ating serif na letters. Gothic, sans serif, yung atin pong Roman, yun po yung mga serif na letters. Yun po yung may mga thick and thin strokes, yung may mga lines or protruding lines po sa ating mga letra. Katulad ng nakikita nyo ngayon, yung first example, Times New Roman. So ito po yung example ng Roman family ng letters, no? Yung Garamond and a lot more. Take note. Now, there are different families of letters, including yung script, Old English, yung mga modern or decorative. And among these families of letters, yun pong Gothic and Roman, sila po yung mga simple letter styles, easy to process, no? Easy to read. So most legible, kumbaga. Kaya when designing, so we need to take note of that. However, we can also use naman yung other fonts. Kasi sasabihin ng iba, bakit pa merong Comic Sans? Bakit pa may Old English? Bakit pa may Jokerman na ginawa kung hindi naman pala siya gagamitin? We can use other fonts if you want to highlight a specific part of your presentation, no? So later on, papakita po ako ng example, no? So take note of that, simple fonts. And we can also combine din, no, yung mga fonts natin. Like in this example, yung title ko ay script. Ginamit ko siya as for the title, and then gumamit ako ng kung mapapansin niyo, yung aking definition, yung perception theory, it's Gothic, no po, yung kanyang style. Samantalang yung description mismo, yung describes how people tend to organize. So ito po ay Roman family. Meron akong 3 fonts na ginamit. Take note. Ang goal ko rito is I want to highlight a particular part ng aking presentation, no? So we need to be careful, lalo na sa pagpili ng mga font combinations. Okay? Now, yun po yung isang challenge, no? Ano bang font yung will best go with this one? Now, madali lang po natin itong i-google. There are plenty of websites available online, mga available online resources which recommends, no, yun pong mga best font combinations. All right? So i-check na lamang po natin iyon later on, no, sa Google. Pangalawa, for the font, choose a letter style appropriate to the message. Okay? Now, take note of these examples, although hindi po ito about a research, no? Pero ito yung mga classic example, no, yung appropriate to the message. Like for example, yung Harry Potter na the way the title was written, no? Kung mapapansin niyo, medyo ang element dito yung lightning or yung kidlat, no? Because it tells something about the movie. Yun yung element. May element na ganun kasi kay Harry Potter, no, yung kanyang scar. Kaya it's related, no, appropriate to the message. Another example, yung bloody crayons, no? Kung mapapansin niyo how bloody was written, talagang bloody siya, hindi mo maikakaila, no? How crayons was written, so it tells something about the message. And even yung ang probinsyano, no? Kasi this is an action no, teleserye, no? Ang daming bakbakan dito. So medyo strong yung kanyang fonts na ginamit, no? So we can use letter styles appropriate to the message because it will help our viewers process information din, no? Relate yung nakikita nila dun sa actual na sinasabi natin or sa actual na content. Okay? So, yun po yung importance niya. Okay? Third, choose a letter style that suits your learners. Ito gusto nating ma-feel, how are we going to engage? Yun yung tanong natin kanina. Yung ating selection ng font can also help us in engaging them. Our viewers should be able to feel that what we are discussing, what they are seeing in the presentation are referring to them, no? They can relate, no? In this example, Children's Guide to Birds. Alin kaya sa apat na ito, sa tingin nyo, yung appropriate, no? Dun sa mga bata, Children's Guide to Birds. Yung first ay script, yung pangalawa medyo parang handwriting din yan. Yung third, I don't know, I forgot kung anong font ito. Then yung Children's Guide to Birds yung pang-apat, I also forgot kung anong font ito, no? But in this case, siguro yung pangalawa, no, this is the font style that children can relate with, no? Kasi parang medyo similar to handwriting nila, no? Without being judgmental, ha, please take note. Ang key naman po dito, we can always pre-test. We can always pre-test. Kung ang iyong audience ay mga bata, in this particular example, edi pre-test mo yan sa mga bata. And let's check, alin kaya sa apat na ito yung makaka-relate sila. Okay po? So, fourth tip. Ayan. So, nakikita ko yung mga answers ninyo, no, dun sa ating chat. Fourth tip, as much as possible, combine capital and lowercase letters. Kumbaga sentence case, no? Avoid yung paggamit ng all caps, except for title. Maybe you will be required to write your title in all caps. However, if it's too long, it might be difficult to process. No? Kung mapapansin niyo, same yung content ko rito, yung nasa taas ay sentence case, nasa baba ay all caps. Now, there are more white or breathing space dun sa ating combination, no, yung ating sentence case. Take note of the shape of the letters. In terms of the visual space that they occupied, no, ito pong dalawang ito, kapag all caps, somehow it will look quote-unquote cluttered. For me personally, no, ang hirap basahin kapag all caps. Okay, ang hirap i-process. Sabi nga, masakit sa mata, hindi magaang tingnan, samantalang kung yan ay naka-sentence case, because of the shape of the letters, no, titingnan natin, there are a lot of white space or breathing space, no, where our eyes can rest. Okay? So yun po yung kailangan natin i-consider. Fifth tip, use all caps to emphasize a concept. In this example, no, I would like to emphasize the word forest. Ginawa ko siyang all caps. Even without the exclamation point, no, parang yun yung na-highlight dito, yung word na forest. And we can also do that in our presentation. Katulad nung pinakita kong example kanina na Gestalt Psychology, it's a perception theory, iba ko yung kulay. Pero yung perception theory, kung gusto ko siyang i-emphasize, pwede ko rin siyang gawing all caps. Kasi yun yung gusto kong matanim sa isipan ng viewer. Gestalt Psychology, it's a perception theory, no? So, ma-relate nila yung dalawa. Number 6, avoid vertical or unusual patterns. Or ito po yung tinatawag nating pain in the neck layout. Siguro kung 1 or 2 words, this will be acceptable, no? Pero kapag lumampas na sa let's say 2 words, mahirap na siyang i-process. Again, ang keyword po natin dito, yung information processing. ano yung pinakamabilis na paraan para mabasa at maintindihan at ma-internalize yung ating content. Kapag vertical pattern katulad nito or yung nakatagilid na gano'n, no, yung nakahiga, parang it will take more time for the viewers to process. Magko-connect the letters pa sila or there's an extra activity that they need to do. Like, gaganon pa sila, no? Or instead na basahin na agad ng diretso. Okay? So, we avoid this type of layout or patterns for text. 7, check spelling and grammar for accuracy. Sometimes this affects our credibility, no? These affect our credibility din, no? If let's say may wrong spelling, yung wrong grammar, or even yung accuracy ng ating information that we will be that we're presenting, no? So importante pre-test, no? Check from time to time. Sabi nyo nga, nagpa-practice tayo, nagre-rehearse tayo, for sure, makikita natin itong mga, although minor lang naman ito, no, na errors, but this will affect also our viewers. Okay? 8, be consistent. All right? Now, for your slide presentations, halimbawa, we need to be consistent with our fonts. Like in this example, no, ito po yung social media card that DOH uploaded in their Facebook. Tungkol po ito sa mga diseases or mga sakit na kadalasang nakukuha tuwing summer. At kung mapapansin ninyo, lahat ng title, similar ang font, similar ang layout. Maliban dun sa ubo at sipon, no, hindi siya all caps. But anyway, similar po ang kanilang layout. Yung subheading, similar, consistent, all caps, na po, naka-bold siya. Tapos for the main body, ito yung font na ginamit, etc. Okay? So we need to be consistent. This is also one way on how we can help our viewer process information. Wow, as si Sir Ed, nag-iba na siya ng kulay for this heading. Ibig sabihin nito, another topic na yon. No? Nag-iba na siya ng font, nilakihan na niya, no? Binold, naka-bold face na ito. So, yun yung gustong i-highlight. So, lahat ng aking gustong i-highlight, I will render it in red color or in script. I will underline or italicize it. No? So, andun po kasi yung ano, no, yung sabi nga ni Gestalt Psychology, yung principle ng similarity, no? Na kapag ganito ang layout, ganito ang size, ganito ang font, eto siya. This is referring to the title or subheading or the main content or main body. All right? And also, our 9th tip, letter size. In terms of letter size, please take note of this one. For projected medium, if you're going to make a slide presentation or a video presentation that will be projected on screen, ito po yung recommendation, at least 24 points for the body, and at least 44 points for the titles. Take note, you can go bigger pa, no? At least lang naman po ito, no? These will be legible enough. Ito daw pong 24 and 44. All right? Now, if you will be presenting it, let's say in a poster paper, it's going to be printed, non-projected medium. Ipiprint mo siya sa ganitong dimension. This is our recommended. No? According to experience and from studies also, take note, if your viewer will view it 64 feet away, at least 2 inches daw po yung ating size. No? For the body, siguro at least 2 inches. But you can go bigger pa. No? Take note for poster papers, di ba, ipiprint nyo yun, let's say sa tarp or sa kung anumang material, ganito yung dimension, ipopost siya sa labas ng conference venue or there's a separate room for that. So hindi siya projected. So ito po yung ating recommendation, no? If the material is 8 feet away, at least 1/2 inch, no? You can go bigger pa. Ang translation po natin dito, 72 points, that will be more or less 1 inch. No? Yung pong ating 72 na point, kapag nag-layout kayo sa Word or sa Photoshop or sa PowerPoint, that may be equivalent to 1 inch approximately. All right? So, yun po yung ating first element ng design. And these are our 10 guidelines or tips. Okay? For sure, marami pa po tayong mga pwedeng ma-share na tips, no, with regards to font design. And you may also chat or share them, no, sa atin pong Facebook Live. You may type them po, no, if you have additional tips on fonts. All right. So now, let's move on po with the second element, color. At ito rin po yung nabanggit ko kanina sa text, no? Be consistent with the use of color. Like in this example, yung title ko, marker felt siya, 45 ang size, bold, green ang kulay. Subheading, gagawin ko siyang Helvetica, 40, bold maroon, body, Helvetica, 32, regular black. No? So, kapag po gumagawa ako ng presentation, may kodigo ako. Sinusulat ko po ito so that next time or pag nag-move na ako sa next slide, alam ko na agad na ito subheading ito, no? Ito yung size, ito yung layout niya, ganito yung kulay, i-italicize ko ba or i-bold ko. No? Gumagawa na agad ako ng guide for myself, no, parang kodigo. Kasi kapag wala ako nito, ang tendency ko, babalik ako dun sa previous slide, hahanapin ko pa yung property or paano ko nga, ano nga ba yung ginamit ko rito. So, kapag sinulat mo na siya, at least guided na po tayo. No? Use contrast to emphasize a concept. We have also discussed this a while ago. If you want to highlight, like for example, yun pong perception theory, ginawa ko siyang pula, iniba ko yung kulay. I want my viewer to relate it dun sa Gestalt psychology. So, hinighlight ko siya, ginawa ko siyang pula. Okay? So, contrast is very important. Please take note. Like in these examples, no, na nakikita nyo sa screen. Okay? The first three are quite difficult to read, no? Yung una po na example natin, medyo madali pa siyang mabasa. However, there are some parts of the text that blend with the background photo, no? Kasi merong light yung text ko, there are some light portions in the background image, kaya nagbe-blend siya, no? On that part, medyo mahirap siyang basahin. Take note of that. Yung second example ko naman, it's dark na nga yung text ko, dark pa yung aking background, definitely, mahirap siyang basahin. Similarly, light yung background, light yung text, definitely mahirap siyang basahin. Ano po? Now, ang principle natin dito, yung ating light over dark or dark over light. No? Para makita natin yung contrast. And mas madaling mabasa or makita yung mga elements natin. No? So, here are more examples with regards to contrast. Naalala ko before, no, in the 90s, yung gradient na feature sa Word or sa PowerPoint, nung na-discover ng mga estudyante, na-discover namin magkakaklase, aba sige, gradient tayo, no? So parang naging ganun yung trend, no? However, we need to be careful when using gradients, no? Kasi there might be portions of your presentation na baka masakit sa mata, mahirap na siyang basahin, even yung text, no, lalo na kung poster paper 'yan. Yung second example natin dito, it still uses the gradient. Kaya lang kung mapapansin niyo, no, very clean yung pagkaka-render ng gradient. And at the same time, yung contrast, makikita pa rin natin yung contrast ng text at saka ng background image or ng gradient na background, no? So, malinis pa rin siyang tingnan, no? So, I'm not saying naman, no, na the gradients are so 90s. Hindi, no? Actually ngayon ang dami ko nakikitang gradient, no? However, we need to be careful. Take note of that. Okay, to guide us further sa ating contrast, so ito po yung ating guide. I usually give this to my students so that whenever they create presentations, alam nila na ano yung gagamitin. This is a simple guide. Ang sinasabi lang po dito, if your background color is red, you can use yellow, white, or black. These three colors are the best when in terms of contrast. And the worst, we should avoid magenta, obviously, cyan, blue, tsaka green. Kasi parang kinakain ng red, no, na background yung text, kumbaga, no? Kaya minsan mapapansin niyo in some presentations, lumulutang yung ibang letters para nagiging three-dimensional yung itsura ng inyong presentation. Kasi yun yung yung tone, yung value, or even yung saturation ng mga kulay. So we need to take note. Okay? Another example, kung yellow daw yung background color mo, red, blue, and black will be the best. And we should avoid white, obviously, and cyan. No? So, please take note of these. Okay? So, balikan na lang po natin ito later on, no, if you want to use this guide. Okay? Plus, there are other websites din naman po which you can check, no, dun sa mga best color combinations. Number 3, limit the use of colors to 1 to 2 theme colors. Okay? So, the more elements you include, the more things to process on the part of our viewers. Yun po yung ating sinasabi kanina, no, yung information processing. So, we need to limit yung paggamit ng masyadong maraming kulay. Maybe I can use, let's say, green or blue as my theme color. Yun po talaga yung pinaka-base niya. For the other colors, I will just use the neutral colors, no, for the text, for the other elements. Okay? And take note of this one also. Ayan. So yung paggamit natin ng mga photos as our background, di po ba? So mamaya we have more examples of this one. I will show you later. More on visuals. Oh, visuals na po tayo. This is our third element na, no? Please take note. We are discussing the 4 elements of design. We are now down to our third element, visuals. And in research presentations, graphs visualize quantitative data better than tables. Okay? So graphs can show trends more efficiently and effectively than tables. Please take note of that, no? Mas any type of graph, no? Hindi na po natin iisa-isahin. You may use a bar graph, a line graph, or a pie chart, or a pie graph, or a pictograph, or an area graph, etc. Scatter plot graph, etc. No? Depending on your purpose, yun po yung importante rito. Ano ba yung type ng data na aking ipe-present? Okay? Kasi hindi po tayo basta-basta kumukuha or namimili kung anong graph ang gagamitin. No? It depends on the type of data. And in most cases, graphs visualize quantitative data better than tables. Okay? Baka may magtanong, bakit pa ako gagamit ng tables? If you want to show the details, no, ng inyong data, so that is where we can use tables. And usually, ito ay appendix. In my case, ginagawa ko siyang extra slide just in case may magtanong. Ina-anticipate ko na po, no? Ilalagay ko yung table para mas makita nila yung actual data. Take note. And here's a very nice example, no? It uses a graph, yung before, it's a pie chart, and ginawa pa niyang visually appealing. Since it talks about essential nutrients in coffee, edi instead na pie chart lang yan, edi gawin ko na siyang parang nasa tasa. Yun yung hahatiin ko, no? Dito sa segments ng aking pie chart. Okay? So this will be a challenge for us. And there are available apps also online. You may want to check, no, later on na lang po. Okay? So meron tayong mga apps na pwedeng gamitin, no, to help us in visualizing our quantitative data. And here's another example. Okay. Now, let's take a look at this one. This is an interesting way, sabi nga natin, of presenting data. Instead of showing yung actual bars, ang intention po ng author dito is to use yung icons that can symbolize a particular city. Like Sydney, ginamit niya yung Opera House, or itong Mumbai, or itong Cape Town, or itong Delhi, no? So ito yung mga icons doon sa particular city, no? This is an interesting way. However, we need to take note of the accuracy ng ating data, no? Kasi kung titingnan natin ito, parang yung Mumbai, siya yung may highest batting average, no? Base doon sa kanyang illustration. Yung Sydney yung may pinakamababa kasi yung Sydney Opera House mababa lang yung pagkaka-present dito. Where in fact, yung Sydney, it has the highest batting average, no? So, ito po yung sinasabi natin. We also need to be careful. Sometimes we want our presentation to be aesthetically appealing, na yung accuracy of information presented naman, yun yung nagsasuffer. So, we need to take note of that. Okay? So, be careful po, no? So ito, madali lang natin siya i-correct, no? Lalakihan ko lang yung ibang mga elements, ibababa ko lang yung icon ng Mumbai para ano pa rin siya, parallel pa rin siya doon sa data. Okay? Next. When presenting non-quantitative or non-statistical data, like for example, you will present a particular process or a particular section or cross-section diagram halimbawa or illustration. So diagrams and charts are interesting ways on how we can present non-quantitative data. Let's take a look at this example. Ito po yung ginawa kong methodology doon sa aking research, how I implemented a flipped classroom. Take note, nag-conduct ako ng pre-test, inintroduce ko yung unit, so I outlined the steps. All right? Now, to help my viewer better understand yung relationship ng mga process na ito, I created a framework. I created this some sort of a flow chart, to help them better understand. No, this way, mas madali po nating maipapakita yung mga proseso at relationship ng mga bagay-bagay dito po or mga specific steps dito sa ating particular example. So, this is also an interesting way. Instead, let's say for example in a poster paper, instead of discussing your methodology, maybe you can transform it into a flow chart. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. And then ito yung particular steps or activities na ginawa ko. So that will be more interesting, one way of engaging the viewer. Here's another example, yung sa Johns Hopkins po na peak process in strategic design. So ito po siya, instead of just discussing na ito yung 5 proseso ng strategic design, so gumawa rin sila ng framework, or gumawa sila nitong ating diagram na ito or itong illustration na ito, illustrating yung ating P process. Okay? And to further help us in doing this, in PowerPoint, ang dami naman pong available na templates, Doon po i-check nyo lang yung sa ating Smart Art. So makikita nyo na po doon yung iba't ibang mga, some of them you can edit, well, we can edit, yung kulay, yung layout, pwede naman po nating baguhin. So those are interesting ways. Very helpful po yun, based from my experience. All right, more on visuals. If you plan to use photos, take note, use properly exposed photos, not blurred, take note, not overexposed or too dark, not overexposed, yung pong masyadong maliwanag, not underexposed or yung masyadong madilim. It should be properly exposed. And it should tell a story. It has a message. It communicates something. Hindi po tayo naglalagay lang ng litrato or ng visuals for the sake of to catch attention. In addition to catching attention, we want the photos to convey a message. Take note of that. Kasi po kapag blurred yan, alam nyo ang tendency, kasi ako kapag nanonood ako ng presentation, may blurred na picture, I tend to lose focus on what the speaker is saying. Kasi naisip ko, blurred naman, bakit yun yung nilagay? Yun yung napaprocess ng aking isipan. And for many participants, baka ganun din po yung kanilang experience. Kung ito ay too dark, makukunot noo pa yan. Ano ba yung nasa picture? Ano ba yung sinasabi? Bakit kaya ganun? So, instead of focusing on the actual content, so we need to be careful. And similarly, we also need to limit yun pong editing ng ating litrato. Take note yung accuracy ng ating message or accuracy ng information that we would like to present. Lalo na if it's a technical info, baka yung iyong picture ng bacteria na pinakita dyan, ganito yung kulay, pero dun sa screen mo, dahil sa sobrang edit na ginawa mo, na bago mo yung saturation, nag-iba na yung actual na kulay, yung accuracy ay nagsasuffer. So, take note of that po. Maybe we can limit hanggang doon sa cropping ng photo, yung brightness level, pwede naman natin i-adjust. We just need to be careful. All right? More on visuals. Okay, check the scale of the picture. Ito po, na-experience nyo na ba ito? Ito, ang dami ko rin nakikita sa mga presentations, no? And I can understand why some are doing this, no? Yung pong mga distorted na image. Kasi gusto nilang i-fit doon sa visual space. Ito na lang kasi yung available na space doon sa aking PowerPoint or sa poster paper. Sige, pagkakasyahin ko rito. Ang tendency po na di-distort. And we would like to avoid this. Again, it veers away, takes our strays away from yung focus ng ating viewer, no? Baka mawala doon sa ating discussion. All right? Na-experience nyo ba to? Okay. Paano ba tayo mag-scale ng ating mga litrato? Usually, kapag mag-enlarge at magre-reduce, yung corner po yung hinihila natin. Hindi po yung taas muna, tapos yung gilid, yung baba, yung gilid, no? So, hindi po ganun yung proseso natin. Usually, it's the corner, no? Press control yata and then you drag on the corner. Okay? Ito po, may experience na ba tayo dito? Try to evaluate yung mga nakita nating presentations sa klase, sa conferences, sa mga webinars that you have attended. No? Yung paggamit po ng appropriate visuals. It should be related pa rin dun sa ating content. Alright? Hindi dahil ang aking pet peeves ay mga butterflies at mga bulaklak at mga tulips sa limbawa, yun yung aking gagamitin sa presentation. No? It should be related. Okay? Otherwise, yun nga, the more elements that we include, the more things to process. Kung hindi naman siya related sa ating dinidiscuss, so it takes away pa, no, more time. It takes more time pa to process, no, on the part of our viewers. Okay? Next po, yung last natin for this morning, no, yung layout. This is our fourth element. This is also very important because when we talk about layout, this is how we arrange or put together yun pong ating mga elements. Saan ko ibalalagay ang text? Saan ko ipoposition yung aking image? No? So, yung aking title, yung aking subheading, yung logo, saan ko siya ilalagay. So, ito po yung ating mga simple tips. No? First, whenever possible, avoid templates. Sir, sabi mo kanina may template yung conference. In that case, it's a guide Yun kasi yung kanilang sinet na parang guideline. So, most probably, hindi natin yung naiiwasan, but you may want to check, no? Can we edit? Can we tweak? Can we rearrange? Ito pa rin yung theme color, ito pa rin yung look niya, pero I will just be rearranging some parts. So we can ask. Yun po yung isang bagay na kailangan nating tandaan kapag templates yung ginamit natin. If you're in a conference with, let's say, maybe 80% presenters, kung template yung ginamit mo, most probably, baka may kapareho ka. Some templates are editable naman, no? Pwede rin naman yung template if you can edit, change the color, change the layout, change the position, etc. Yun pong ginagamit ko ngayon, it's a template from Canva. However, I tweak, no? Yun pong kulay, yung layout, yung mga linya na ginamit or yung mga elements dito. Okay? Here's an interesting also thing that we need to consider. Guilty po ba tayo dito? Use animations sparingly. Ayan. Be careful. Una, dun po sa yung mga moving elements na gusto nating ilagay dyan, kapag medyo ganito, baka at the end of this presentation, lahat tayo maging katulad na nitong parang banana na ito na gumaganyan-ganyan as we listen or as we watch, no? So use animations sparingly. In addition, take note of the animations that you plan to use, no? It can really be annoying for the participants to look at presentations na isa-isang bumabagsak ang letra, isa-isang nag-a-appear yung mga words or yung mga lines, etc. Or even yung mga transitions ng slide. May transition na yung slide, gumagalaw pa si banana, gumagalaw pa yung words. There are a lot of things going on, no? So we need to be careful. And we also need to be consistent with our transition or animation. Kung ang aking transition na gagamitin for the slide ay wipe or dissolve, all throughout, yun po yung advice sana. pwede ka magbago ng transition kung nagbabago ka ng topic, kung nagbabago ka ng section. Similarly, for animations, we can also be consistent. However, kung nagbabago po tayo ng topics, ng sections, introduction, ito ang aking animation. Methodology, ito yung aking animation. Pwede naman po yun, no? So take note. Ayan. So ang tagal nyo na nakita tong banana na ito, no? Yun yung goal ko na after this, pag ganyan-ganyan tayo. Alright? Now, take note. There may be some animations that are less distracting. Katulad po nito, no? Okay lang naman gumamit ng animations, but check, no? Yung pong mga animations that are less distracting, like in this example. No? Ang ating best friend po dito si Google, no? Type lang tayo ng keywords doon. So test tube, animated test tube or animated experiment, no? So ayan, may lalabas na siya ng recommendations. All right? Next, for the layout, nabanggit po natin kanina, avoid using photos as background kasi nga it might overpower, baka masapawan ng background yung ating text, yung content, no? Ang gusto natin dito, nagko-complement yung mga elements. Ayaw natin na nag-harmonize. Gusto natin nag-harmonize sila. They are unified, nagko-complement. Ayaw natin na nag-aagawan sila ng eksena in our visual space. So, avoid photos as background. Okay. More on the layout. We need to consider yun pong eye movement ng ating viewers. Tayong mga Pinoy, we usually follow the Z layout, yung Z pattern. Ano po? We read from top to bottom, left to right. So in other words, yun pong Z. No? So similarly, when you create your slides, we can follow this. No? The most important element on above, on top. And the other elements we follow, no po, yung ating Z. So pababa yung ating pagbasa. Okay. This is very important. I have here two examples. No po? Yung first example ko dito, developing and characterizing a novel combined nanoelectrode system. Okay? So it's very good in terms of grouping yung kanyang mga sections. Meron siyang kanya-kanyang boxes. Ano po? However, when it comes to eye movement, baka dito po medyo tayo mahirapan. Well, ang una nating nakikita rito, obviously, yung title. No, developing and characterizing a novel combined nanoelectrode system. Pangalawa, yun pong electrochemistry at nanoelectrodes. Ngayon, ano po yung susunod nating titingnan? How will I view this? Left to right or pababa? No, kasi tatlo yung nakadikit sa kanyang image no. So, we need to be careful on how we lay out our sections. No, whether it be a poster paper or a slide presentation. Now, we can provide visual cues. Lagyan natin ng numbers, lagyan natin ng arrows that can help or guide our viewers kung ano yung kanilang unang titingnan, ano yung susunod na titingnan, and so on. Ano po? Now, yung aking second example, ito pong safer sexual health. Kung mapapansin niyo rito, mas malinaw yung eye movement. Ano po? Kasi yung results, naka-box siya. So it's a separate section. So ang interpretation ko rito as a viewer, I will read the title, background, objective, methodology, conclusion, pababa ko siya titingnan. Ano po? And then tsaka ako magpupunta sa results. Baka ganun yung aking interpretation dito. No? As a viewer. Alright? So kahit na ito po ay walang visual cues, walang guide, pero klaro, no, kung paano natin siya babasahin compared with the first example. Okay? Consider proportion of visual to space. Take note of this one. Avoid clutter in our design. Again, the more elements we include, the more time it will take our viewers to process the information presented. Okay? So, dapat ito ay mabasa, makita nila conveniently, efficiently, effectively to help them process information. No? So, yung malinis na na design sana. So, kanina nabanggit ko po yung white space, yung konsepto ng white space or breathing space. In the second example, yun pong may picture ng ibon, kung mapapansin niyo, no, ang dami nitong white space. This is a very good practice on how we can help our viewer process information. Okay? I will read introduction first, and then there's a plenty of space here. Siguro yun yung time for the viewer to process the information that they have read. And then andyan yung objectives, meron tayong mga elements dyan, may mga enough white space. We are giving them enough time to process what they have read. So yun po yung ating principle dito. All right? So before I end this morning's presentation, I would just like to show you an example. Ano po? So let's take a look at this example. All right? So based on the principles that we have discussed or the design principles that we have discussed, ano po ba yung mga pwede nating gawin to further improve ito pong ating slide na ito? No? So I have here a slide, part of my presentation. So ang challenge po sa atin, how can we improve the layout of this presentation? All right? So, yun pong ating text at yung ating image. So, to answer that, you may type your answers po no sa ating comment section sa ating Facebook. All right. Sige po, i-type po natin yung ating sagot, no? How can we further improve this presentation? Ayan. So may mga nababasa na ako, no? Change the font, the color of the font. Change daw natin yung transparency, sabi ng iba, no? Yung kulay, palitan para magkaroon ng contrast. Siguro yung iba maaring ganito yung gawin, no? Palitan ko kasi ito dark over dark, no? Dark na nga yung inyong photo, tapos dark pa yung text. Okay? So gawin ko siyang ganito para light over dark, no? Dark kasi yung background na image dito. So ginawa ko siyang white, tapos yung transparency, pwede ko siyang palitan, no? However, there are still some parts of the text that blended, no, doon sa ating sa dress ng ating ng ating subject dito, no? Yung iba ganito yung ginagawa. Pansin niyo po ba sa mga newspapers, kapag tumama yung isang word sa isang dark portion ng inyong background, papalitan ko yung kulay. And ang tendency nagiging ganito, no? Actually, sa newspapers, ganito po yung nakikita ko na practice. And we want to avoid this. What we can do is, baka pwedeng ganito. Increase yung transparency, tapos darker yung text. Or, katulad po nung sagot ng iba, pwede tayo mag-apply ng text stroke. Tama po yon. Or maglagay tayo ng box, katulad nito. No? Ayan po siya, para ma-highlight yung text. Or very good, no? Sample, ang sabi po ng iba dito, kung equally important yung photo at saka yung text, wag mong gawing background yung photo, no? Ihiwalay mo siya doon sa iyong text. Okay po? Para pareho siyang makita ng viewer, no? Kasi yung ating message, it will be best conveyed by both image and ating text. All right? So ganito po siguro yung pwede nating gawin. But in addition to this, definitely, no, tama po yung mga nabanggit nyo, no, dito sa ating comment section sa FB. All right? So, before I end my presentation, I would just like to highlight po yung importance ng pre-testing our visual material. All right? Kasi kapag tayo lang yung tumitingin sa ating presentation, syempre bias na po tayo doon, no? We can have it, we can rehearse or practice. Sabi nga kanina, pwedeng sa colleagues mo, sa kapatid mo, or you can record yourself, no, as you present. And then later on, focus also, solicit comments and suggestions dun sa ginawa nating presentation. So pre-testing is very important. Okay po? Now to end this presentation, syempre like many other webinars, I would like to end this presentation with a quote from the Argonne National Laboratory. No, they have also they have this guide to oral research presentations with capital O title case. Sabi po nila, it is not what you say that is important. All right? It is what the listener hears, understand, and takes with them space. That is important. Okay? So ito po yung atin sanang maging mantra whenever we create a presentation. We are not creating it for ourselves, but we are creating it for our viewers to better understand what we are discussing or presenting in our research. All right? So this ends my presentation. Here are some of the references that I have used. Again, some of these are based from my experience and experiences of my colleagues. If you have questions, we can entertain them po. It's Q&A time. Maraming salamat po for listening. Halos 1.5 hours po tayong nag-discuss. No, thank you very much po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Sir Ed Centeno. So that was a very fruitful session, sir, no? Na akong po mismo, no, nakapag-nilay-nilay po ako sa mga visual guides natin, especially sa DevCom po, no? Parang, ano, sir, no? Parang, I think this was our DevCom 14 way back in 20... Anong year nga yun?
4 or more years ago,
2016.
Josh.
Yes, sir. 4 or more years ago po. So sa amin po sa DevCom, these are discussed in one for a whole semester. So I'm very glad po na si Sir Ed po ay na-compress niya po lahat in 1.5 hours, di ba? So thank you very much, sir. Ito nga po, una ko nabasa, sabi ni Leonid Talabi, sabi niya, my key takeaway from this session is pre-test your material. And I agree nga po, no? Always, pre-test your material. And before siguro, sir, we proceed with our Q&A. Shoutout po muna tayo ng konti sa ating mga kasamahan sa College of DevCom na full support kay Sir Ed. Nakita ko dito si Doc Lisa Cabrera. Hi, Doc Lisa. And hello po kay Doc Maan Ingwa and the rest of the UPLB Main Library family po na tumututok sa atin sa session na ito. Sabi nga po ni Doc Maan, thank you, Sir Ed, for sharing your knowledge. Ang dami daw po nilang natutunan. And sir, nanonood si Dr. Karen Joyce Kayamanda of UP Mindanao. And
Hi, Ma'am Karen.
Si Ma'am Lynette. Hi, Ma'am Lynette. She's
Hi, Ma'am
watching here
Lynette.
with us po. Hi, Ma'am. Good morning. And kay Engineer Donnie Ray Camus ng University Planning and Maintenance Office. And hello po sa inyong lahat. Ayan. So I think we can proceed po with our Q&A. So ano pong inyong mga questions or perhaps your key takeaways po sa ating session ngayong umagang ito. So tama-tama, sir, na ito yung last session natin kasi kumbaga ito na yung final leg talaga ng any research paper, yung presentation na ng ating mga results. And I believe na the tips that you provided are very helpful. I'm sure marami pong magre-replay ng ating session pagdating ng kanilang research presentation. So, may questions na ba po tayo? Ayun, sir, may mga ano nga po dito sa chat na sabi nila, madami daw po pala silang maling ginagawa. So, naging eye-opener po ang ating session.
Ayan.
So,
Josh, actually,
yes, sir.
Oo. Actually, when it comes to designing, when it comes to creativity, wala naman po talagang hard and fast rules. So, we continuously learn. Kaya okay lang yan, maka na-realize nyo na, ay, may mali akong ginagawa. Next time, try to check, gawa kayo ng bago. Mapapansin ninyo, no, you can still improve, no, yung ating pong mga ginagawa, yung mga practices natin.
I agree, Sir Ed, no. So, talagang it will dito kanya-kanyang strategies natin. So these are just parang guiding principles natin, Sir Ed, no? Kasi especially, sir, pagdating din sa I think, for example, sa mga ibang conferences, I think for example, yung iba, I had experience po na sila na yung nag-provide ng template ng PowerPoint. So talagang lalagyan mo na lang ng element. So it's a case-to-case basis po talaga na with regards sa ating visual design. So,
tama. Alam mo, Josh, yung experience ko dyan, although they provide templates, sometimes I only follow yung title slide. Tapos yung nasa loob, kumukuha lang ako ng elements sa title slide na ini-embed ko doon sa mga inside sections ng PowerPoint para ma-feel pa rin nila na kahit binago ko, I still follow. And yung tawag ng branding ng conference, nandun pa rin sa presentation.
Tama, sir, no? So, ayan. Hi po kay Ate Bev Pabro po ng Catel UPLB. So, full support din ang team ni Sir Ed sa Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning sa CATL. Hello po sa inyo. Ito po sir, meron po tayong question from Gerald Paz. Ang question niya po is, good morning po. How different po ba ang research presentations sa national and international conferences or presentations? Ano experience niyo dyan, sir? With regards sa presentation proper siguro po.
Actually, yung experience ko, wala naman masyadong difference, no? Well, probably ang difference is yun nga, ano ba yung isa-set na guidelines nung organizers, no? Dun sa mga presentations. But I have presented both national at international. Wala akong gaano nakikitang significant na difference. No? Siguro yun nga yung mga requirements. Some international conferences, they will ask you to record or submit. In addition na magla-live presentation ka na, meron ka pa dapat recording na gagamitin nila, no? As you present, they can upload or they can share agad even before pa the presentation. May mga ganong mga cases. Alright?
So it would sir talaga, it would depend. It would depend
really
talaga
depends,
kung saan.
Kahit yung mga dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga national conferences, minsan iba-iba rin sila ng mga guidelines. So, yun.
Ayun, thank you, sir. Siguro po, sir, ano naman, kayo, sir, interviewin ko na rin po kayo ng konti. Ano po, ginagawa niyo pong practices para hindi po kayo kabahan sa actual research? Kasi minsan iba yung feeling mo pag yung nagpe-prepare ka beforehand. May mga iba, ako po, personally, may cases ako na ang tagal-tagal ko na siyang ni-rehearse, pre-practice, sinimulate yung presentation ko. Pero come the presentation proper, doon ako oh no, ito na, kinakabahan ako. Anong personal tips mo dyan, sir?
Tama, Josh. Ako kahit ngayon, no, dito sa presentation na to, yung first few minutes, kabado pa rin ako, no? Kasi tuwing magpe-present, ganun yung experience ko. Now, very important yung rehearsing, yung practice. If you can prepare a script, mas maganda. No? Or kung talagang na-anxiety ka kapag live yung performance, you can record naman. Tapos ang ipasa mo na lang yung recording mo, and then at the end naman there's room for Q&A, no? Andun na yung live kumbaga na discussion. So kung talagang kinakabahan po kayo, nakapag-research na kayo, nakapag-rehearse na kayo lahat, may script na kayo lahat, siguro ang isang ano natin dito, try to record. And then yun po yung ating isubmit. Makakatulong po yun, no? Siguro mga first presentations, baka yun yung kaba Pero kapag malimit ka na mag-present, baka unti-unti, no, ma-overcome mo na rin yung parang anxiety or yung kaba.
Yes, sir, no. And I think this is one of the strategies din po ng ating mga teachers kung bakit pinagre-report natin ang ating mga students sa class. Para parang training din siya. Minsan kasi yung students nagtataka, pinagre-report kami ni ma'am. Pero eventually, this is a training ground for students in presenting any presentation. Tapos eventually, pinapresent nila sooner or later ng kanilang research sa mga conferences. So, talaga, sir, pag kumbaga, kailangan mo sanayan lang yan yung ating pagpe-present or not, kahit hindi research, any presentation for that matter. Na ang guidelines, sir, na na-present nyo po, it would still apply, no? Right. Kahit hindi research-related na presentation. Kunyari, may inspirational talk ka, you were invited as a speaker, yung guidelines na shinare ni sir ay talagang magagamit mo rin. Sabi, sir, ni Ma'am Lynette Carpio Serrano po dito. Hi, Ma'am Lynette. Excellent talk as usual, Sir Ed. Thank you for organizing this LRC. Thank you, Ma'am Lynette.
Thanks, Ma'am Lynette. Josh, idagdag ko dun sa nabanggit mo sa kaba, no?
Sige, sir.
Take note for everyone, there are really unexpected things na habang nagpe-present ka, may mga bloopers dyan, biglang mag-off yung mic mo. Ako kanina, sa gitna, bigla akong napaubo. Para naisip ko, natawa ako. So, yun yung something na baka makapagpa-add ng kaba or ng anxiety sa atin. So, we also need to take note yung mga ganong bagay, yung mga unexpected things na yun. What will I do if this will happen? No, so makakatulong po 'yon kapag may mga ganung unexpected things.
Ano yan, sir? Parang I think makaka-relate po dito yung mga yung mga teachers natin na minsan si anak dadaan sa likod.
Right.
Parang ang naalala kong tip diyan na minention ni Sir Chico at ni Sir RJ is parang wag mong gawing, kumbaga wag mo ituon dun yung yung focus. Kumbaga for example, duman si anak or may other distraction, parang go with the flow with your presentation. Wag kang ma-distract easily sa kung ano man yung nangyari sa within that presentation. Especially ngayong Zoom, sir, no? Ngayong mga
Correct.
virtual meetings. Mas mahirap, ako personally, mahirap i-manage yung mga presentations na ganito sa Zoom, especially pag hindi mo na kikita yung yung mga participants mo.
Mm-mm.
So, ayun. Ito po, sir, we have a takeaway from Neb Ozilbat po. Ang sabi niya po, thanks, Doc Edmund. My takeaway from your lecture is do not cram. Have time to
Mm-mm.
prepare and have it tested and proofread. So, I agree po, no? Talagang
Correct.
prepare before. Kung ang present, although, ako sir, minsan din guilty ako dun sa yung pagka-cram din ng presentations. Minsan, especially if time is crucial. Maraming ginagawa or dito, marami tayong file ng work. So, hanggat maaari
Mm.
i-prepare natin beforehand yung ating mga presentations.
Para relax ka na, Josh, no? During the presentation itself, relax ka na, no? Kasi na-plancha mo na, naayos mo na yung mga presentations mo, yung mga
Tama,
materials.
sir. Ito po, sir, we have a question from Mangayaw. Ang tanong niya po is, ilang slides po ba dapat sa presentation? May standard ba po tayong sinusunod?
All right. Again, it depends on the guidelines set by the organizers. Usually, ang ano po natin dito, ang approximation natin dito, if it's a 15-minute presentation, one slide po will be equivalent to 1 minute ng presentation. Take note. So kung 15 minutes yan, edi more or less, mga nasa 15 slides po, approximately. Ang idea po natin dito, yung pagpa-practice natin, no? Para makita natin, matansya natin within this time limit, ito yung number of slides na madidiscuss po. Katulad po ngayon, no? I think I have 57. So inisip ko na to nung isang araw. I have 1.5 hours naman. So 57 slides will be enough kung one slide, 1 minute per slide.
Tama, sir, no? And with regards to that pala, sir, no, itanong ko na rin po yung isang tanong na nare-recall ko from our session with Doc Chino on the RRL. Kailangan ba pong maglagay ng snippets from RRL sa ating presentation? Anong take nyo dun, sir?
Well, yun nga, no? Ang gusto natin sa visual design, you put less, however, you discuss more as you discuss na lang. Kung talagang importante, yun yung highlight, one of the highlights ng inyong research, you can emphasize, no? Pwede po tayo maglagay ng snippets. However, kung hindi naman, we will just be using it to support a data, a particular discussion po sa ating slide. Maybe you can just tell it. Wag na lang natin siyang ilagay sa slide.
Verbally na lang po siguro, sir, yung presentation mo ng part na yun ng related literature mo instead of it being another slide on your presentation. So, next question po, sir, from John Del Brosas. Ito po, regarding sa tips for preparing a thesis defense or presentation. Do you sometimes try to predict questions based on the content of your paper, sir?
Correct. Tama yun, no? We also check din yung mga potential or mga possible na itanong sa inyo. Maganda kung meron tayong ready yung bala natin, no? Meron ka ng extra slides or additional slides. What if itanong ito? Kasi yun nga sabi ko, no? We really can't discuss everything sa ating manuscript. 'Di ba? So, maaring konti lang talaga yung mailagay natin sa visual. So, kung may mga i-anticipate natin yung mga questions na yon, we can prepare extra slides.
Thank you, sir. Noted po yan. Ito po, sir, we have a student. Ito, medyo exact yung kanyang question. Good morning po, sir. May defense po kasi kami. 5 to 10 minutes po yung time to defend our topic. Any suggestion po sana kung hanggang ilan lang po na slides ang pwede pong ilagay sa presentation if my time limit is 5 to 10 minutes? Siguro na-mention, although na-mention nyo to, sir, pero sige po.
Nabanggitan natin kanina, no? Yun nga, doon tayo mag-work muna sa estimation natin na 1 minute is equivalent to 1 slide. Babalikan natin yung sagot kanina, no? Yung pagpa-practice, yung pagre-rehearse talaga, that will be helpful. Kasi minsan kahit nga 10 slides, kaya kong i-discuss ng ganitong number of minutes kapag nag-practice ako, no? So, doon natin siya makikita.
Maganda siguro sir na ano niya, i-practice mo sino to? Si Josel Sotero. Try mo sigurong i-practice, i-record mo sarili mo sa Zoom, tapos orasan mo. Tapos parang may draft ka, tapos for example, sobrang ikli masyado, pwede mo dagdagan. Or di kapag sobrang napahaba, pwede mo namang bawas. So parang ganun sir, parang lalaruin mo din eh.
Pero Josh,
yours.
yun nga yung sabi natin kanina, kapag nag-practice ka at during the actual presentation, huwag ka na masyadong mag-deviate, no? Kasi yun na nga yung pinaractice mo eh, nahuli mo na, nalaman mo na ito yung ito yung duration. Saktong-sakto na. Huwag ka na masyadong minsan napapadagdag tayo ng kwento, hindi natin maiwasan yun, no? And yun nga, nag-overtime ang tendency.
Tama, sir. Kung anong pre-practice mo, yun na rin dapat
Correct.
yung ipe-present mo. Kasi eventually naman, sir, pagdating ng Q&A, if your panel or yung mga co-presenters mo, they might have questions or they would request you to elaborate, pwede nang mas mahabang sagot mo doon sa Q&A portion.
Oo.
Diba po?
Tama.
So, eto po, sir, from Jimmy Palen, ang question niya po is it possible na even live yung presentation tapos sa start ng presentation, kumbaga video lang yung research presentation mo, tapos sa Q&A ka na lang mag-verbal. Okay. Para ang question niya, sir, is yung parang na-mention nyo kanina na ang mismong presentation niya ay recorded, tapos sa Q&A na lang siya live mag-speak. It would depend, I think, sir, it would depend
organizer.
Din kasi.
Correct. Lalo na ngayon, no, kung online yung mga conferences, may ganun talagang options. Kasi yung organizers, they understand na yung internet connection talaga ng participants, hindi natin masasabi kung reliable ba or what will happen if something will go wrong, no? So at least kung nanghihingi talaga sila ng video recording. Okay, and you may tell them naman na you opt to present it through this video recording. Even before the pandemic, may naadaluhan akong conferences. Nandun si speaker, si researcher, pero video pa rin yung pinresent. So, okay lang naman, no? Tapos doon ka na nga lang sa Q&A, yung discussion na live discussion.
And I think, sir, ang kino-consider kasi nila doon ata is yung stability ng connection ng participant. Kasi minsan, pag sa any participant na nagpe-present, minsan naglalag or it prolongs the presentation itself. So minsan ganun ginagawa ng mga research conferences. Sila na magpe-play, magpe-present, so Q&A na lang ang pasok. So yes, sir, it would depend po talaga. Ito po, sir, from Zen Bernardo, I think this question is interesting, sir. Ang question niya po, in preparation for an international presentation, do you consider culture an ethical consideration or siguro yung pagpe-presentan mo, sir? Kayo, sir, since you have experience po in presenting abroad.
Well, ang masasabi ko rito, well, of course, yung ating choice of words or text and even yung ating choice of images na gagamitin, it should be appropriate pa rin dun sa ating mga culture, no? Kasi yun nga, no, we don't want our content to be offensive to some. Although, ang idea kasi dito, hindi mo naman alam kung sino yung a-attend, etc. So, we just need to be sensitive na lang dun sa ating mga info that we will be presenting. Yung choice of image, how you package your content, yung choice of words din natin. Kaya importante dito, no, yung pre-testing. Yun yung parating babalikan natin.
Oo nga po, sir. Kasi hanggat maaari, we avoid placing offensive content, even visuals perhaps sa ating presentation. Especially when we have other nationalities as our audience. So, ayun po. Ito po, sir, siguro one of second to the last question po natin. Sabi po ni J.R. Sionosa, ang question niya po is, on the point of view of the teachers, how to address social loafing issues, specifically for big groups. The same people, like leaders, are answering the questions during the proposal and final defense. Ito, sir. Paano daw po sigurong yung mga ganong cases na big groups yung research work, so tapos si leader lang ang taga taga-present o siya na rin taga-sagot ng question. Kayo sir, ano pong strategy sa tingin niyo pong masasuggest niyo doon?
Oo, if it's a group research, no, kailangan pag-usapan ninyo ng mga magkakagrupo who will be the one to present while the others naman can join the discussion siguro sa Q&A. Dapat informed na 'yon. Kapag group research ito, hindi naman kinakailangan na lahat kayo ay mag-present. Imagine kung may time limit, no, it will take time pa, let's say kung 3 or 4 kayong magpe-present. No? So, 'yon. Siguro okay na kahit na isa, tapos mag-contribute yung the rest of the group mates siguro doon sa, let's say, Q&A, doon sa discussion mismo. So pag-usapan. And you can also inform, if it's a thesis defense, you can inform the panel na for our this presentation, we will ask student A to do the discussion or the presentation, and then later on po the rest of the group will contribute in the Q&A, etc. So pwedeng ganon para mas maging maayos.
Medyo distracting din kasi sir kapag yung ikaw sa slide number 1 and 2, ako sa dito sa slide na to. Ang mangyayari kasi niyan parang magkikibuan pa yung mga students kung sinong turn na ba yung magpe-present. So maganda po na isa na lang magpe-present pero the rest would contribute nga po sa Q&A portion. And may nag-suggest nga po dito sir, have the students critique their fellow classmates research work. So at least everyone would have a contribution with regards to inputs sa papers for improvement or mga ganun, for comments or suggestions. So, ayun po. Ito sir, for our last question na po sa ating Q&A portion, from Richard Hortizuela po. Ang question niya po is, ano po ang take nyo sa of students defending their research pero ang tone daw po sir is parang nag-host ng event? Or parang sigurong parang game show na sir ang peg nung research presentation. Siguro sir as a communications professor po, ano po ang dapat i-take note or dapat gawing guidelines ng mga teachers with regards sa format or manner ng pag-present ng mga teachers ay ng mga students?
Josh, it really depends Kung for me it's not annoying, di okay lang naman sa akin. For others, they might find it more engaging and motivating pa kasi kita nila invested si presenter, no, doon sa kanyang sinasabi. So, it really depends. Okay? Pero tama, no, wag naman masyadong OA. Baka minsan instead na you focus on the content, you focus on the message, you focus on the messenger, no, you focus on the delivery. So, ayaw din naman natin na mangyari yung ganun. So, maganda sana yung sakto lang, no, na presentation.
Oo nga, sir. Siguro sa ating mga bibo na students na
pinaalala akong ganyan.
I feeling ko, sir, parehas tayo na nang-aalala na student batchmate.
Hindi, sa conference naman ito, Josh. Hindi
sa conference ba?
Na-insecure ako. Sabi ko, naku, paano ako? Ang pangit ng boses ko sa sa online or sa recording. Pero isa talaga, projected yung boses, no?
Siguro yung mga ganyan, sir, charge it to experience natin with regards sa presenting our research or other presentations. So, let's see. Wala na ba tayong mga question? Ito, sir, sige, pagbibigyan ko po. Last question po ni Nepo. Ang question niya po is regarding sa questions. How should we deal po with questions raised pero yung question po is out of context sa study? May ganun bang cases, sir? Or minsan po kasi may ganun, no?
Oo, sabihin nyo na talaga na, like for example, hindi naman part ng study yon, edi you tell it dun sa sa conference mismo na ito yung limit ng study, ito yung coverage. Kung hindi nyo alam yung sagot, wag mag-pretend na alam ha, kasi yun nga, no, lalo na we're presenting research, no, dapat tayo facts yung inaano natin dito. Pwede niyo namang sabihin na can I get your number or your email so that we can discuss this further, etc. Mag-research ako, i-check ko yung etc. So pwedeng mga ganon, no? Ganon yung gawin natin. Minsan sa experience ko rin, Josh, yung talagang sa isang conference, si resource speaker, nakipag-away na siya dun sa nagtatanong, parang hindi sila magkaintindihan at talagang nagbabatuhan sila ng ganyan. So, ang tanong doon, how to deal, no, yung mga ganong situations. After the presentation naman, pwede mong lapitan yung nagtanong sa'yo and then you can discuss further. And I think mas healthy pa nga yung gano'n, no, because you're establishing a network na rin. So that next time, baka may similar kayong interest, research interest, pwede pa kayo mag-collaborate. Kaya importante yung din establishing network sa mga conferences. Lalo na yung mga nagtanong sa inyo, no? Kasi ibig sabihin nun, interested sila sa discussion ninyo. Maybe in the future, we can work with them or collaborate with them in a research.
I agree, sir, no? So siguro handle it professionally na lang during the presentation and collaborate and coordinate with the one who asked the question after the presentation, no? Para siguro yun nga, sir. Kasi for example, ako po nung yung present po namin yung research namin ni Dr. Flor po sa ARC Bangkok nung last year po, may isang nagtanong po about sa methodology namin. Tapos yun, parang nag-email sa amin tapos doon na lang namin sinagot yung nang mas mahaba yung tanong niya. Kasi parang interested siya doon sa ginawa namin na methodology. So parang gano'n na lang po, no? So ayun. So sige po, Sir Ed, siguro your final words of advice po sa ating mga students and teachers na rin po with regards sa oral and visual presentation of research. Sige po, Sir Ed.
Ayan. So ang final words ko po, I am sure maraming beses naman po tayo, it's not our first time to present something. It may be our first time to present our research, but definitely it's not our first time not to report or present something. So we take on our experiences and learn from the experiences that we have. Kaya importante po sana after each presentation that we had, we evaluate ourselves so that we can check, no, kung paano pa natin mai-improve when it comes to presenting it orally, or how are we going to design our communication materials. No, so yun po, no, we assess ourselves. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much, our passion speaker for this morning, Dr. Edmund G. Centeno. Now, #Team LRC would like to take this opportunity to thank our speaker for his valuable time. So to award the certificate of appreciation, may I kindly recognize our director, Assistant Professor John Mervin L. Embate. So allow me to read the citation of the certificate. University of the Philippines, Los Baños Learning Resource Center presents the certificate of appreciation to Dr. Edmund G. Centeno for serving as resource speaker during the webinar series Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper during the 10th session entitled Let's Work It, Oral and Visual Presentation of Research, held today, May 19, 2022 at the Learning Resource Center, UPLB College Laguna, signed by our director, Assistant Professor John Mervin L. Embate. Sir JM.
Thank you very much, Josh. And of course, thank you, Sir Ed, sa pagpapaunlak sa amin ngayong umaga kahit na sobrang busy mo at ang dami mong involvements. Ganyan, no? And thank you for inspiring us, most especially for reminding our audience here na kaya nating mag-present ng ating research paper, na hindi naman to yung first time natin na nakapag-present tayo orally or visually sa mga klase natin. Tama yung sinasabi ni Josh, no, na sinasanay tayo ng mga classroom exercises natin na mag-report, mag-present, no, para in the future present din natin yung ating research output. So I think it's a good practice for us, no, na we don't keep our research findings to ourselves, but we share it to other people. Kasi yun yung ina-emphasize natin dito sa webinar series natin. Your research, your thesis should not just be an output or a requirement in class. Consider it as your gift to the world. And it being a gift, kailangan binibigay natin siya sa maraming mga tao, no? Para matulungan natin yung iba at ma-improve din natin yung ating pag-aaral. Of course, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who joined us in our webinar series. Nakasampu tayo ngayong webinar series natin, no? Sinimulan natin with Dr. VC Vice Chancellor Nel Bantayan, no, who provided us information about the research and extension agenda of the university. napakinggan din natin, no, yung social relevance ng research natin. How do we make our research socially relevant and impactful from Dr. Every Serrano, na napakinggan din natin yung ano nga ba yung mga features natin, mga services and programs sa UPLB Main Library from Doc Maan Ingwa, at kung paano nga ba natin pwedeng isulat yung ating RRL ng maganda, effective, no, and comprehensive from Dr. Chino Sayuno. At syempre, na-feature din natin mula sa ibang University campus ng UP si Dr. Julian Baldoco Bello na nag-provide ng insight on how we can mainstream gender and development in our research. At napakinggan din natin si Dr. Pamela Custodio, nagbigay sa atin ng mga guidelines, no, kung paano natin pwedeng ma-ensure ang ethics sa ating mga pananaliksik. And then just last week, no, napakinggan natin si Sir Enzo Yambot na tinuruan tayo kung paano nga ba yung mga best strategies to analyze quantitative data. At natutunan din natin yung qualitative data analysis. Hopefully, may natutunan tayo from me. And this week, no, ang ating conclusion sa ating Research is Life Webinar Series, napakinggan natin si Ma'am Girly Abrigo para doon sa mga tips na pwede natin gamitin on how we can write our manuscript. At ngayon nga, ano, yung oral and visual presentation from no less than Sir Edmund G. Centeno. So nais nating pasalamatan, no, lahat ng mga naging guest speakers natin ngayon na nagbahagi sa atin ng oras, ng kanilang effort at ng kanilang expertise para matulungan yung mga students natin sa UPLB at yung mga constituents natin coming from different high schools all over the Philippines and other higher education institutions. So sana ay marami tayong napulot doon sa ating matagal, more than a month na pagsasamahan, at hindi po natatapos dito yung mga programa ng LRC para sa ating lahat, no? Tune in po tayo doon sa mga other meaningful learning sessions na ipoprovide po ng Learning Resource Center para po sa ating mga mag-aaral at para po sa ating mga taga-subaybay sa ating Facebook. With that, again, Sir Ed, maraming salamat po sa inyo, at sa ating mga participants, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagkapit at pagsama po sa atin dito sa Research is Life Webinar Series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir JM. Thank you very much, kay Sir Ed. So now for the evaluation of this session, please do not forget to answer the evaluation form after the webinar to receive your e-certificate of attendance. So your comments and suggestions will be deeply appreciated by our team, #TeamLRC. So the evaluation link is being shown right now on your screen, and I've already pinned it in the comments section. So kindly refer to the comment section or your screen right now. So you may also want to scan the QR code and you'll be directed straight away sa ating evaluation form. Please be reminded that the deadline of responses is only until 10 p.m. tonight. So please take notes sa ating mga teachers. You may want to take a screenshot of this slide and send it to your students. So ating mga students, you may want to share it with your classmates and colleagues. So just kindly retrieve na lang it after our session. Okay, so please also be reminded to be careful with the spelling of your names and your email address. So because we will not resend certificates to those who will input incorrect email addresses or invalid or misspelled names. Okay, so we hope that we all gain inspirations and valuable insights from our speaker this morning. So with that, I would like to recognize at this point and thank our team, #TeamLRC, and the Research is Life team, headed by our director, Sir Jem Embate, with the support of our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Dr. Janet H. Malata Silva. On our technical side is our Project Development Associate, Ms. Ana Margarita Palma. And a big shout out to Team LRC's members, Ma'am Cheryl Ebron, Hermosa Ebron, Ms. Alan Limangente, and Mr. Elmer Balatin. And a big thank you to all our speakers for this webinar series. Vice Chancellor Nathaniel Bantayan, Dr. Everly Serrano, si Dr. Mary Ann Ingwa, Dr. Julian Baldo Cubelo, si Prof. Enzo Yambot, si Doc Pamela Custodio, si Sir J.M. Embate ang ating speaker po, si Sir Chino Sayuno, si Ma'am Girly Abrigo, and of course, si Sir Ed Centeno, our very passionate speaker for this morning. So 10 out of 10 sessions, dear participants. Maraming salamat po sa mga sumama at tumutok sa ating 10-day webinar series na ito. So we do hope and pray that this webinar series was able to help you in some small way kayo in your respective research works. So we wish you all the best, especially for our graduating students. Let us claim 101% victory and success in your thesis and dissertations. So always remember, your research is more than a requirement. It is your gift to the world. Hashtag research is life. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Stay hopeful, stay healthy, and stay safe. We'll see you on the next webinar series. Goodbye and thank you. Have a great day.